how blind people in ancient times survived without support systems. For thousands of years, millions lived in complete darkness, not because of night, but because the world refused to see them. No books, no systems, no help. So how did they survive, in a world built entirely for sight? A dusty ancient road stretches across the horizon. Merchants walk, soldiers march, and farmers work under the blazing sun. Life is harsh, physical, and unforgiving. Now imagine living in that world, without sight. No written signs, no guiding systems, no support from society, just darkness and survival. For thousands of years, blind individuals lived in a world that was not built for them. And yet, they survived. This is their story. In ancient times, there were no support systems for people with disabilities. No rehabilitation centers, no disability rights, no structured education. Blind individuals faced a simple, brutal reality: adapt or perish. Survival depended almost entirely on family. In close-knit societies, families often cared for blind members, providing food, shelter, and protection. But this support was not guaranteed. Those without families had limited options. Many turned to begging, standing at marketplaces, temples, or city gates, relying on the generosity of strangers. Religious beliefs often encouraged charity, offering some relief, but survival was uncertain and inconsistent. In many societies, blindness was closely tied to poverty and dependence, reinforcing a cycle that was difficult to escape. Yet even in these harsh conditions, some individuals found ways to survive and even thrive. Ancient cultures did not always see blindness as a simple physical condition. Instead, it was often wrapped in mystery. In some societies, blindness was seen as a punishment from the gods, a sign of weakness or misfortune. But in others, it was viewed very differently. Blind individuals were sometimes believed to possess special insight, a deeper understanding of the world beyond sight. This belief appears in myths and traditions across civilizations. In ancient Greece, blind figures were often portrayed as prophets or wise men. In other cultures, blind individuals became spiritual guides or storytellers. This dual perception, fear and reverence, shaped how blind people were treated. Some were rejected, others were respected. Their survival depended not just on ability, but on how society chose to see them. Without sight, blind individuals relied on their other senses to navigate the world. Hearing became sharper, touch became more sensitive, memory became a powerful tool. In fact, many ancient thinkers believed that blindness enhanced other abilities. While not entirely accurate, it reflected a real adaptation. Blind individuals often developed extraordinary skills in listening, memory, and spatial awareness. These abilities allowed them to memorize long stories and histories, navigate familiar environments, recognize people by voice and movement. In oral cultures, where knowledge was passed through speech rather than writing, these skills were incredibly valuable. Despite the challenges, blind individuals found roles within their communities. Music became one of the most accessible professions. It did not require sight, but relied heavily on hearing and rhythm. In many cultures, blind musicians were respected and even celebrated. In ancient Egypt, for example, blind individuals were often involved in music and poetry, contributing to cultural life. In societies without written records, storytelling was essential. Blind individuals, with their strong memory and listening skills, became keepers of stories, traditions, and knowledge. In some cultures, blindness was associated with spiritual insight. Blind individuals could serve as priests, guides, or interpreters of religious teachings. Some performed simple crafts or repetitive tasks that relied more on touch than vision. Still, opportunities were limited. Many lived on the margins, constantly fighting for survival. For every success story, there were countless struggles. Blindness often meant dependency, poverty, social exclusion. In some societies, people with disabilities were treated as burdens. In extreme cases, they were neglected or exploited. Blindness could also result from war injuries, disease, or accidents, meaning many people lost their sight suddenly, without time to adapt. Survival was never guaranteed. And yet, humanity persisted. Even in ancient times, humans began searching for ways to overcome limitations. Before modern technology, early forms of assistive tools began to appear. People experimented with raised letters, carved symbols, and textured surfaces that could be read by touch. These early systems were crude, but they marked the beginning of accessible communication. Simple walking sticks and guided assistants helped blind individuals navigate their surroundings. In some cultures, blind individuals were trained in specific skills that suited their abilities. These innovations were small, but they represented something powerful, the beginning of adaptation through design. For centuries, progress was slow. Then, change began. In 1260, King Louis IX of France funded one of the earliest institutions for blind individuals, marking a shift toward organized care. This was the first step toward something revolutionary. Support systems. By the 18th century, specialized schools for the blind began to appear. These institutions provided education, training, and opportunities that had never existed before. For the first time, blindness was not just a condition to survive, it was a condition that could be supported. Then came one of the greatest breakthroughs in human history. In the early 19th century, a young boy named Louis Braille changed everything. Blinded as a child, he understood the limitations of existing systems. Inspired by a military code called night writing, he developed a new system based on raised dots. By 1829, Braille was born. It was simple, efficient, revolutionary. A fingertip could read an entire letter in one touch. For the first time, blind individuals could read and write independently. Braille opened the door to education, knowledge, and independence. It was not just a tool, it was freedom. After the invention of Braille, progress in accessibility for blind individuals began to accelerate rapidly, marking a turning point in history. During the 19th century, Braille spread across Europe and gradually reached other parts of the world. Schools dedicated to educating blind individuals began to expand, offering structured learning environments that had never existed before. If this story changed the way you see the world, subscribe, because there are more untold histories waiting to be revealed.